I'd just like to mention a little point on safety. In a workshop, you've got many sharp and dangerous objects. Power tools that can do severe damage. So learn how to use them correctly and always follow the safety precautions with them. Never remove safety guards unless you really feel confident with the tool. Protective gear. Goggles, ear defenders, masks, etc. It's a domestic workshop, there is no regulations, but common sense prevails. When you think you need them, use them. Okay, having said that, now let's get on with today's project. Today we're going to build a spice rack. It's a turnstile type, so it'll fit neatly underneath the worktop, underneath the cupboards on the worktop, so that you can get to the spices by just simply turning it around. The way in which I've done it is underneath, it's got a second base, and I've just used simple ball bearings or marbles or anything like that between there to give it the wheel revolving action. I'll show you how I do that later on. Now the parts in general, we need 3 circle pieces, one for the sub base, one for the base, one for the top. The top and the base will be routed out for the uprights to go into it. Then we need 4 uprights, all of equal dimensions. I'm using a top grade 3/4 plywood, 18mm plywood, so it's good and well sustained. When finished, I just finely sand it and then I'm coating it in a wax rather than varnishing it. Gives it a nicer feel, and it's water repellent wax, so it'll be good in the kitchen. Right, so first let's get the pieces and cut them all down to size. We'll put this to one side for now. Now then, in general, when you first start, you've got to determine what size it's going to be overall. The way in which I did that is I take the spice bottles that I'm going to use, they're all general the same size, and check a piece of wood what I'm going to be wanting to use it, what it's going to look like. It's up to you really how wide you make it. You can make a real good solid wide chunky one, or something sleek and discreet that's just big enough. The wood's strong enough, it's going to hold when you cut the holes out, it's not going to warp and twist or anything, so you can shrink it down quite a bit. Once you've determined your size of timber, you've then got to do the placing. Now I found from measuring that the pivot point would be if you left a 50mm gap, and that would give you a just nice pivot. So we'll put here a 50mm gap there. Now you need all 4 set the same. Not all of this one's the wrong size, but for demonstration purposes it'll do. So we'll have them all set out like so, making sure each one is in the centre of the preceding one, and they will fit in like this. Now start with a piece of scrap wood that's bigger than you want, because remember you're going to cut a circle. So if you're cutting it the same size as what you've got there, when you come to do the circle, it's going to be off. So make sure it's bigger. Mark where you want them, and then on the outer lines where you'll have them, you can then across the 2 and draw a circle to get roughly what you want. Now them slots then will need routering out. I've thought of other ways of doing it, but really using a router is the easiest way in which to get into them. Yeah, I suppose if you've got a dedicated mortiser or something like that, that also would do the job. And if you're a die-hard joiner and you want to sit there with a chisel for a few days, you can do it that way as well. You want to go down 8-10mm, your choice. Now this side you'll see I've already routed it out. We've still got the rounded corners, which I will square out later. But in it just allows them to fit in. Just nicely like that. Okay. And a circle going round. Now, I've just roughed that circle. When I've finished, I want it tighter to the joints. And that circle will cut out on the bandsaw from the centre point. So, now we've worked that out, we now know roughly what size piece we want to start with, and we're looking here 25mm, 24mm. 24mm will do us. So we cut 3 blank squares now, 24mm, and then we can mark out the first one for this. So let's do that. Okay, 25mm, 3 of these I need. Whilst I've got the saw ready, I want to do dirt bikes, which I've already measured. I want them to be 38.5 centimetres. So set it flat. And I need 4 of them. Okay, so that's all the pieces ready. 4 uprights and 3 bases. Now the bottom base, the sub base, will be smaller in all dimensions, but we'll just leave that until nearer the end and we'll just reduce it from what the finished base is. Okay, so the next thing, we need to router out the base and top. Now what I've done to make life simple is I've made a jig for my router. It's exactly the size I need it, allowing for the collet. And I've set the router so that I've got a double depth stop. The first one being the complete depth that I want, and the second one half of it, because it's hard plywood, so I don't want to try going through in one pass or it'll all burn up on me. So all we do is attaching that to the centre and putting a mat down here for anti-slip. Now then, many ways in which you might think of attaching that to there. Remembering I don't want to damage this piece. I want it to be clean, I don't want screw holes in it and drill holes or anything like that. Clamping it, it's going to restrict your router wherever you clamp that. So I find the best way is a hot glue gun. Just a couple of dabs, stick it down, hold it down for a couple of seconds. It's not going to move on you. Furthermore, when you're finished, you can just tap it off and peel the hot glue back off again. But before I start, I just want to generally square it up. Not precisely, doesn't need it. And then on the underside, hot gun, just a few blobs, place it where you want it, press it. And that's not going to come off again. Okay, not until we want it to. Right, now we can router it out. Okay, well generally that's the second one done. Now you can see, I'll clean it up in a minute, they're both opposite to each other. So they'll flip over and, won't fit yet because of its corners, but they'll fit into it. Right, the next thing we're going to do, cut these into circles onto the bandsaw for that. Now, the bottom one, because of the sub base and the ball bearings I'm going to be putting in, I want a hole right the way through, so I can drill the hole that will fit my template on the bandsaw. On the top one, I don't want a hole anyway, so I'm going to use one of the dowling studs that will fit into my template on the bandsaw, and just I'll get a pinprick hole which is easily to fill in, and as it's underneath it will not be noticed, but you've got to have some way of holding it in order to create the circle. Right, so we'll get on with that. Okay, that's all three pieces made. We have here the one without a hole, which is the top piece, the one with a hole all the way through, which is the bottom piece, and the sub base, which is the one without any routering on it. Now what we need is on the base and the sub base to router out for the balls. Now marbles, ball bearings, whatever you've got, whatever you want to use. I'm using these decorative marbles to router it out. And just take the, there you can see it. Just an half round plunge bit. I've taken the collet off and I've set my depth stop. I'll try it out first with a blank piece and just I want it to go just less than half the depth of the ball in both circles. Now to create the circle, I made this. It's just a bent round piece of steel that fits through the rip fence slot there. Fits into the holes that we've already made and will allow us to adjust forward and go around in a nice circle there. Same on that one, and won't add any extra marks to it. Nice and simple. Now, on the first one, I routed a full circle on both, but I had to fill the complete circle with balls, which took quite a lot of them. And by the time you finish, it's cost more to make it than it has to go and buy one. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to router one of them in a full circle, and the other one I'm just going to router 6 evenly spaced points where they will sit. If I router 2 circles, eventually they'll all gather up together and the thing will wobble. So space them out evenly and just router dot points where you want them to be. Simple as that. Okay, let's give it a go. With a little grease, that will work very nicely. And we'll have a bolt through the centre which we can just apply tension and stop any wobbling. Right, okay. That's that part done. Now we can start on the uprights. Okay, on the uprights of the rack, we need now to drill out the holes. I'm using a 45mm Forstner bit. Now just set it at an angle to give you the pivot. The angle's entirely up to you. Just try it out and see what you feel's best. I can't even remember what angle I set it at. 10 degrees, maybe 15, something like that. Okay, right, so we've now drilled all them out. Now fortunately, as I've got a radial drill press, I don't need to bother adjusting the table. I can do it if I wanted, but I can just set this roughly what angle I want. So let's go. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Yep, good angle. Okay, and using a sacrificial piece of wood because I don't want punch through on them. And remember to move it after each hole you drill. Slowly setting big holes of it. Nice and steady. Good. Check the angle. Yes. Okay. Now just a whole lot more to do. Finally the last one. Okay, so that's all the pieces there ready. Now the next thing we need to do is with a chisel take out the corners of the routed mortises that we've made there so that these uprights will fit in squarely. Then we'll trim the uprights to the exact size of the mortises. Easiest way of making sure they're all exactly fitting. So good sharp chisel, let's get on with that part. Okay, I'll get them sanded down and then we trim them down until they'll fit snug into there. Evenly off both sides. I'll just take a thin slice off each one, make sure they're pretty much custom made to fit into whichever slot I want them to go into. Okay, now I just want to run these down slightly so that they will fit into these mortises that I've made. Some slight differences, so I will make each one custom for each mortise. The sanding now will be good. Okay, now I can give all them a sanding down.
do like the number on the bottom.
So I've got here a nut and bolt. It's got a locking nut, so once I've set the temperature, the tightness that I want, it will come undone again with the turning around of the spice rack. A couple of washers and some drill bits. Now what I want to do is be able to sink the nut in and be able to get my socket in to tighten it. So first get a portion of it that would allow the socket to clear. Then a drill bit to clear just the bottom. I don't want any wobble. And then from the bottom, nice and firm pit, in it goes. Just dry pit for now. We're going to take it apart and give a final sanding and some greasing up. And then this piece onto the top. On with the next washer. Back up again. That's it. And on with the nut. And just gently. And everything is working perfectly. Now with the start of its base. Wonderfully. Okay, now what I want to do is give it all a real good sanding over and then get it all waxed up. All except for the end of each upright, and inside the reed bits, of course, mortise, because I want to glue them points together, so keeping them as much as possible away from the wax that I put on, because it will stop the glue sticking. Also on the bottom, I'm going to be putting rubber feet, self-adhesive rubber feet. So again, keep the wax off of there until I've got them feet on, then I can give it a wax over the lot. Okay, take it apart and give it some final sanding. Okay, dry wax. One cloth for putting on, one cloth for taking off. What I do is apply a rubbing coat first, just to get into all the grain. And as I say, avoiding top and bottom because I want to be gluing them, and avoiding going inside the rebates and mortises because again I want to glue them. Give it one coat, leave it while I go through all of it, and then go back again, rub it all off. Then give it a second, thicker, more liberal coat, and I'll leave that overnight to cure fully. Then tomorrow, give it a rubbing off again, and I can glue it together and get it all assembled. And that'll be the job done. So let's get on with it. bottom. I want to leave that for now. We're going to put the self-adhesive feet on it. I like this stuff. It's easy to apply and it gives a really nice silky finish to the wood when it's finished. Especially put a couple of coats on. And you can add more coats to it as you go along. It starts to age a bit after 6 months or something. To wipe over and give it another coat. Freshen it back up again. Not loads of sanding down and silly stuff to do. Make sure you get plenty in this end grain. You can see that you've done. It'll look very dry if there's not enough in there. Very quickly it will dry out. You just put more in it. You want that well sealed. Especially as it's going to be in the kitchen. Okay, now let's give it a good rub off from the first coat. Okay, now I'll give it all a second coat again and then leave it until tomorrow. Right, just giving it all a final rubbing over before we start the assembly. Now you might have noticed I marked the end of the uprights with the number relevant to its recess, and inside both top and bottom mark the same numbers, so when I come to assemble it, at least I know where they're supposed to go. Although I'll be covering it with glue, so I'll have to just be aware of that fact as well. Okay, I'll just give these a quick sand on the end of them and they're ready for assembly. Okay, ready for the assembly. First I want to put the balls into place. A bit of Vaseline. good clean grease. That would be harmful to anybody if it should get onto fingers in the kitchen. Okay, up from the bottom. Bit of playing around with it, make sure it's exactly where you want it before you start assembling everything else. Use that will be fine. Yep, ideal. Perfect. Right, later I'll just make a little wooden button to go into there to hide that away. Now what we can do is start gluing up and assembling it all. Number 3 into number 3 and it will fit. Oh, very tight. Good. Right. Just remembering which rope you've got. Sloping needs to go inwards. And you'll have a difference between top and bottom, so it's up to you which way you have it. I'm going to put the shortest piece on the top, like so. Number 3, number 1, shortest on the top, number 1, right. That way round. Number 2, again shortest on the top. Oh, I still fit that one. Yeah. Can only be one left. Okay. Right. One out the one. Get them glued up. Clamps are ready. clamped up, leave it overnight.
David?
Alright mate, not too bad yourself? Okay, set that to one side and let it dry. Now I need to make the button in the centre to cover that bolt. Okay, that's it. Now tomorrow I'll take it out the clamps, give it another wipe over with some more of the wax, just where I've wiped it, just in case there's any sanding bits I need to do or anything like that. Just check it over generally. And then put the rubber feet on and wax them on, and that's it, all finished. Okay, so that's it for today. So, there it is, all finished, ready to go. Now it just needs 20 spice bottles to go in there. Bit of useful. Okay, right, well thanks for watching. See you again next time.